I am Shirley, 42, and my car decided to die at the exact moment my marriage did. Before I tell you how I walked away with 70% of his investments and my dignity intact, tell me in the comments where you are watching this from. I love seeing how far this story travels. It was a Tuesday. A humid, sticky Tuesday in downtown Hartford that made your shirt cling to your back the second you stepped outside. I was driving my 2016 Subaru Outback, a car that had survived 19 New England winters, 3 road trips to Florida, and raising a teenage boy. I trusted that car more than I trusted most people. But apparently, even loyal machines have their breaking points. I was on my way back from a marketing meeting that had run 2 hours late. My head was pounding, a dull rhythmic thud behind my eyes, and all I wanted was to get home, take off my bra, and pour a glass of cheap Pinot Grigio. I turned onto Main Street, right in front of the gleaming glass facade of Oakmont Plaza. That's when it happened. No warning lights. No sputtering. Just a heavy, mechanical clunk, and then silence. The engine cut out. The power steering locked up. I managed to muscle the car over to the curb, right in a loading zone, before it came to a complete, dead stop. "You have got to be kidding me," I whispered, hitting the steering wheel. I tried to turn the key. Nothing. Just a pathetic clicking sound. I checked my phone. 14% battery. Perfect. Just perfect. I called the towing company, AAA, and got a dispatcher who sounded like she was speaking to me from underwater. "We're experiencing high volume, ma'am," she droned. "ETA is roughly 45 minutes to an hour." An hour? I looked out the window. The heat was radiating off the asphalt. I'm stranded in a loading zone in downtown Hartford. "Stay with the vehicle, ma'am." Click. I let out a groan that was half frustration, half exhaustion. I rolled down the window because the AC was dead, and the thick city air filled the car. I sat there for a moment, feeling sorry for myself. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. My mascara had smudged slightly under my left eye, making me look like a raccoon that had a rough night. I grabbed a tissue and tried to fix it, but I just made it worse. "Okay, Shirley," I told myself. Deep breath. It's just a car. It's just money. Samuel will complain about the repair bill, but we have the emergency fund. It's fine. Samuel. My husband of 19 years. Samuel Walker, the esteemed financial advisor. He was probably sitting in his air-conditioned office 5 blocks away right now, looking at spreadsheets and telling wealthy widows where to park their assets. I considered calling him, but I knew his schedule. Tuesday afternoons were for his high-net-worth strategy meetings. He hated being interrupted. I decided to step out of the car to get some air. I leaned against the hot metal of the passenger door, scrolling through emails on my dying phone, trying to distract myself. That's when the revolving doors of Oakmont Plaza spun around. The building was fancy, marble floors in the lobby, a high-end steakhouse on the ground floor, and the Hartford Grand Hotel occupying the top 10 levels. It was the kind of place Samuel took clients when he wanted to impress them, or where we went for our anniversary every 5 years if the bonus was good. I looked up, purely by instinct. The movement caught my eye. A couple walked out. They were laughing. Not just a polite chuckle, but that deep, intimate laughter that implies an inside joke only 2 people in the world understand. The man had his hand resting possessively on the small of the woman's back. He was wearing a navy blue suit, tailored perfectly to hide the slight paunch he'd developed in his 40s. I knew that suit. I had picked it up from the dry cleaners on Thursday. It was Samuel. My heart stopped. Literally. I think for a second, my body just forgot how to function. But then my brain tried to rationalize it. Okay, he's with a client. He's just being charming. That's his job. He's a touchy-feely guy with clients. Then I looked at the woman. She was wearing a cream-colored pencil skirt that was a size too small and a silk blouse. She had a blonde bob haircut, perfectly highlighted, that moved with a heavy bounce as she threw her head back. I squinted against the sun. I knew that hair. I knew that fake, jagged laugh. It was Lorraine. Lorraine Landry. My stomach dropped so hard I felt nauseous. Lorraine wasn't a client. Lorraine was the mother of Tess, the girl my son Wyatt had been dating for 8 months. We had spent Thanksgiving together. We shared a family group chat. She was a real estate agent who always smelled like too much vanilla perfume and desperation. What was my husband doing coming out of a hotel/office complex with my son's girlfriend's mother at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday? I watched, frozen, half hidden behind the trunk of my dead Subaru. They stopped on the sidewalk, waiting for the valet. Samuel turned to her. He didn't look like the man who grunted at me over coffee this morning. He looked alive. Younger. He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. Then, he leaned in. It wasn't a friendly peck on the cheek. It wasn't a goodbye, business partner handshake. He kissed her. On the lips. And she didn't pull away. She leaned into him, her hand sliding up his chest to straighten his tie. The world went silent. The traffic noise on Main Street faded into a dull buzz. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. 19 years. 19 years of ironing his shirts. 19 years of managing his cholesterol. 19 years of raising his son while he built his career. 19 years of defending him to my mother when she said he was too smooth for his own good. And here he was, playing tonsil hockey with the mother of the girl our son loved. My first instinct was to scream. I wanted to run across the sidewalk, swing my purse at his head, and tear those extensions out of Lorraine's hair. I wanted to make a scene. I wanted to shatter the glass facade of Oakmont Plaza with my rage. But then, something strange happened. A coldness washed over me. It started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. It wasn't shock anymore. It was clarity. If I ran over there screaming, he would spin it. He was a salesman, a manipulator. He would say I was crazy, that I was seeing things, that she had something in her eye. He would gaslight me until I apologized for doubting him. He would hide the assets. He would protect himself. No, I thought. Not today, Samuel. I looked at my phone. 12% battery. Enough. I stepped out from behind the trunk. I moved quietly, positioning myself near the front headlight of my car. I was about 30 feet away from them. They were too busy gazing into each other's eyes to notice the woman in the wrinkled blazer standing next to a broken-down station wagon. I opened the camera app. I switched to selfie mode. I angled the phone. In the foreground, there was my face, pale, shocked, with smudged mascara, but my eyes were blazing. Over my left shoulder, perfectly framed in the background, were Samuel and Lorraine. They were embracing again. Samuel's arm was around her waist, pulling her hips into his. Lorraine's head was resting on his shoulder. You could clearly see the Oakmont Plaza sign above them. You could clearly see his face. You could clearly see hers. My thumb hovered over the capture button. Click. I took one. Then two. Then a video, just for 5 seconds, capturing the movement of his hand stroking her back. I looked at the photo. It was a masterpiece of betrayal. It was undeniable proof. My thumb moved to the share icon. My finger hovered over the Walker family chat on WhatsApp. The group included me, Samuel, our son Wyatt, my mother-in-law Beverly, my sister-in-law Denise, and, ironically, Lorraine herself, who had been added so we could coordinate holiday dinners for the kids. I typed a caption. My fingers were trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Look who I caught organizing the surprise engagement party at the hotel. Surprise! I took a deep breath. The humid air tasted like exhaust fumes and vengeance. I hit send. The little blue circle on WhatsApp spun for a second. Sending. 1 check mark. Sent. 2 check marks. Delivered. 2 blue check marks. Read. I lowered the phone but didn't look away from the couple on the sidewalk. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3. It started with my phone vibrating. Buzz. That was Wyatt. Buzz buzz. That was Denise. Buzz buzz buzz. That was Beverly calling. I ignored them all. My eyes were locked on Samuel and Lorraine. Samuel felt his phone vibrate in his pocket first. He ignored it, probably annoyed that the real world was interrupting his fantasy. But then Lorraine's phone, which she was holding in her hand, lit up. She glanced down. I saw her body stiffen. It was like watching a video in slow motion. Her spine snapped straight. She brought the phone closer to her face, squinting, probably trying to make sense of the notification. Then, her mouth opened. It formed a perfect O of horror. She grabbed Samuel's arm. He looked confused. She shoved her phone in his face. Samuel looked at the screen. He recoiled as if the phone was a venomous snake. He fumbled for his own phone, pulling it out of his pocket so fast he almost dropped it. They stood there, side by side on the sidewalk, staring at the digital evidence of their own destruction. The intimacy evaporated instantly. They stepped apart, creating a solid 3 feet of distance between them, as if the air gap could retroactively erase the last 6 months of infidelity. That's when they looked up. They scanned the street frantically. It took them about 5 seconds to spot me. I was leaning against the hood of my dead Subaru, phone in hand, staring right at them. I didn't wave. I didn't scream. I just stood there, the statue of a wife who had seen too much. Samuel's face went from confusion to a shade of pale gray that I've never seen on a human being before. Lorraine looked like she was going to vomit right into the valet stand's flower pot. My phone rang again. It was Samuel. I looked at the screen. Hubby with a heart emoji next to it. I swiped decline. He called again instantly. I declined again. Lorraine was typing furiously. I could only imagine the frantic text she was sending to her daughter, Tess, trying to get ahead of the story. It's a misunderstanding. Shirley is crazy. I looked at the group chat. Wyatt, son MOM? WTF is this? Is Dad with Tess's mom? Wyatt, what engagement party? Tess didn't tell me anything. Denise, sister-in-law OH. My God. I knew it. I freaking knew something was off. Beverly, MIL Shirley, pick up the phone. Why are you posting nonsense? Samuel is at a client meeting. Wyatt, Mom, answer me. Why are they at a hotel? I didn't reply. I let the silence do the heavy lifting. Samuel started walking toward me. He was doing that frantic half-jog that men do when they know they are in deep trouble but trying to look dignified. Lorraine stayed back, hugging her purse to her chest like a shield. Shirley. Samuel called out when he was halfway across the sidewalk. Shirley, wait. Wait for what? My car literally couldn't move. Just as he reached the curb, a massive yellow flatbed truck pulled up, blocking his path to me. The air brakes hissed loudly, drowning out whatever lie he was about to shout. The tow truck driver, a burly guy with a beard and a name tag that said Gus, hopped out with a clipboard. He looked at me, then looked at Samuel who was trying to navigate around the massive truck, then looked back at me. You the Subaru? Gus asked, chomping on gum. That's me, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Where we taking it? Samuel appeared from behind the truck, breathless and sweating. Shirley. Put the phone away. We need to talk. Now. I ignored him. I looked at Gus. We're going to Applebee's on Farmington Avenue. Gus paused. The restaurant? You want me to tow your broken car to an Applebee's? Yes, I said. I'm hungry. And I need a large table. Shirley, stop this. Samuel hissed, grabbing my arm. His grip was tight. You are making a scene. People are watching. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his eyes. Let go of me, Samuel. My voice was low, but it had an edge of steel that he had never heard before. He flinched and let go. It's not what it looks like, he whispered, glancing around to see if anyone recognized him. Lorraine and we were planning, it was a business meeting. Is that why you were kissing her? I asked loud enough for Gus to hear. Is tongue strictly a business transaction these days, or is that a premium service? Gus let out a snort of laughter, then covered it with a cough. Samuel's face turned crimson. Lower your voice. Look, my car is in the garage. Let me drive you home. We can discuss this like adults. No, I said. My ride is here. I pointed to the tow truck cab. I'm going to Applebee's. I'm inviting everyone. Wyatt. Tess. Beverly. Denise. And you. I'm not going to an Applebee's to discuss my marriage. Samuel snapped. Fine, I shrugged. Then you can explain to your son why you missed the family meeting because you were too busy cheating on his mother with his girlfriend's mom. I'm sure he'll understand. I opened the passenger door of the tow truck. It was high up. I had to hike up my skirt to climb in. Shirley. Samuel pleaded, his voice cracking. Please. Think about the family. I am thinking about the family, Samuel. I looked down at him from the high cab. That's why I'm calling a family meeting. I slammed the heavy truck door. It made a satisfying, final thud. Inside the cab, it smelled like stale coffee and diesel. It was the best smell in the world. It smelled like escape. Rough day? Gus asked as he put the truck in gear. You have no idea, Gus, I said. I pulled out my phone. 5% battery. I opened my banking app. I had about 3 minutes before the phone died. I navigated to our joint credit card account. I saw the recent charges. The Hartford Grand Hotel, $312. Today, Tiffany & Co., $850. Yesterday, the Hartford Grand Hotel, $312. Last Tuesday, I took screenshots of everything. Then, I did the one thing that would ensure Samuel would show up. I went to the card settings and hit unfreeze. I had frozen it last week because of a suspicious charge, but Samuel had complained. Now, I unblocked it. Why'd you do that? I muttered to myself. Oh, right. I rolled down the window as Gus pulled away from the curb. Samuel was standing there, looking small and pathetic in his expensive suit. Lorraine had finally walked up to him, crying. I leaned out the window. Hey, honey! I yelled. Samuel looked up, hopeful. I unblocked the Amex. You can use it to Uber to the restaurant. Don't be late. The truck roared, and we merged into traffic. I sat back against the worn vinyl seat. My hands started to shake. The adrenaline was wearing off, and the reality was setting in. My husband was cheating on me. My life was over. You okay, lady? Gus asked gently. No, I said, a tear finally escaping and tracking through the smudged mascara. But I will be. My phone screen went black. Battery dead. I was cut off from the world. No way to see the chaos I had unleashed in the group chat. No way to answer Wyatt's terrified calls. Just me, Gus, and a dead Subaru heading to a chain restaurant to end my marriage over mozzarella sticks. The ride to the restaurant took 20 minutes. Gus was kind enough to turn up the radio, some classic rock station playing Bon Jovi, so we didn't have to talk. I stared out the window at the familiar streets of Hartford, but my mind was rewinding. I was playing back the last 24 hours, looking for the cracks I had missed. Actually, let's go back exactly 24 hours. Yesterday morning, Monday. I was in the kitchen, standing over the ironing board. I ironed Samuel's shirts every Monday morning because he insisted the dry cleaner used too much starch and made the collar stiff. He liked the way I did it. "Shirley, have you seen my gold cufflinks?" Samuel's voice drifted down from the bedroom. It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "They're in the velvet box on the dresser, Sam." "Right where you left them," I yelled back, steam hissing from the iron. He came downstairs a few minutes later, looking impeccable. He smelled of sandalwood and expensive aftershave. He didn't look at me. He looked at his watch. "I'm going to be late," he muttered, grabbing the travel mug of coffee I had prepared. "This coffee isn't too hot, is it? You burned my tongue last time." "It's perfect, Sam," I said, handing him his freshly pressed shirt. He took it without a thank you. He started putting it on right there in the kitchen. "I have a late dinner tonight. Client meeting." "Don't wait up." "Which client?" I asked, unplugging the iron. "You wouldn't know them," he dismissed me with a wave of his hand. "The Hendersons. Old money. Very complicated trust fund structure. You wouldn't understand the details, Shirley. It's high finance." High finance. That was his favorite phrase to shut me up. As if I was a child playing with blocks. "I manage a team of 12 people at a marketing firm. I handle budgets of over $2 million a quarter." But to Samuel, I was just the woman who kept the fridge stocked and the socks paired. "Okay," I said, swallowing the irritation. "Just, don't be too late. Wyatt is coming home from campus this weekend, and I wanted to discuss the tuition payments." Samuel froze, buttoning his cuff. "Tuition is fine. I handle the money, Shirley. You handle the domestic stuff. Just make sure the house is clean. Mom is coming over Sunday." That was our dynamic. He was the CEO of our life, I was the janitor. But the real crack in the foundation, the moment I should have known, was Thanksgiving, 6 months ago. We hosted. I spent 3 days cooking. I brined the turkey. I made stuffing from scratch using my grandmother's recipe. And I made my signature cranberry sauce, fresh cranberries, orange zest, a hint of cinnamon. It was vibrant red and tart, not that gelatinous cylinder that slides out of a can. Wyatt brought Tess home for the first time. They were sweet, holding hands under the table. Tess was a shy girl, polite, studying nursing. I liked her immediately. Then Lorraine arrived. She swept in like a hurricane of designer labels and unsolicited opinions. She brought a bottle of wine that she made a point of saying cost $80. She looked around my living room and said, "Oh, charming. Very traditional. I usually prefer open concepts, but this cozy, cluttered look works for you, Shirley." Cluttered. My house was spotless. We sat down to dinner. Samuel sat at the head of the table, naturally. I sat to his right. Lorraine sat across from me. When I passed the cranberry sauce, Lorraine scooped a tiny spoonful onto her plate, examined it like a health inspector, and sniffed it. "Oh," she said, her voice carrying over the conversation. "Is this homemade? It has such a strange texture. I thought it was canned. It has that jiggle." The table went silent. "It's fresh cranberries, Lorraine," I said, forcing a smile. "With orange zest." She took a microscopic bite, chewed dramatically, and then pushed it to the side of her plate with a grimace. "A bit tart, isn't it? I suppose some people like that rustic taste. I prefer things a bit more refined." I looked at Samuel. I waited for him to say, "Actually, Lorraine, Shirley's sauce is famous in our family. It's delicious." Instead, Samuel chuckled. "She does have a heavy hand with the zest," Samuel said, winking at Lorraine. Shirley is definitely more of a comfort cook than a gourmet chef. They shared a look. A look I didn't understand then, but I understood now. It was a look of shared superiority. A look that said, "Look at this simple woman with her rustic sauce. She has no idea, does she?" I felt tears prick my eyes that day, but I swallowed them down with the dry turkey. I cleared the plates. I washed the dishes while they drank wine in the living room and laughed about real estate prices. That night, in bed, I asked Samuel, "Why didn't you defend me?" "You're being sensitive, Shirley," he sighed, turning his back to me. "Lorraine is just sophisticated. She has a refined palate. You shouldn't take it so personally. Besides, she's an important contact. She knows everyone in Hartford. We might do business together." Business. So that's what it was. The client dinners that started in January. The weekend conferences in Boston in February. The sudden need to put a passcode on his phone in March. The new gym membership in April. He went for hours but came home smelling of soap, not sweat. It was all Lorraine. And the worst part? It wasn't just sex. I knew my husband. Samuel was too calculating for just a fling. He was investing in her. He was investing time, emotion, and, as the credit card notification confirmed, money. As the tow truck rumbled down Farmington Avenue, passing the strip malls and gas stations, the pieces clicked into place. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had replaced me. He was test driving a new life with a sophisticated woman who fit his image of a power couple. I was the starter wife. The one who built the foundation so he could build the penthouse with someone else. The sadness in my chest hardened. It calcified into something sharp and dangerous. I looked at the rearview mirror of the truck. My mascara was still a mess, but my eyes were dry. "We're here," Gus announced, pulling the massive truck into the Applebee's parking lot. The sight of a flatbed truck hauling a dead station wagon into a family restaurant chain at 3 p.m. turned heads. "Drop it right in the center, Gus," I said. "Make sure everyone can see it." I paid Gus with the cash I had in my emergency stash. I always kept $200 in my purse, another habit Samuel mocked. I walked into the Applebee's. The air conditioning hit me like a wall of ice. It felt amazing. "Table 4, the teenage hostess asked, popping her gum. "6, I said. "Actually, make it 8. We might need extra room for the lawyers." She looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. "I need your biggest booth. And bring me the mozzarella sticks immediately. And a virgin daiquiri. Extra lime." I walked to the corner booth. I sat down. I placed my dead phone on the table like a weapon. And I waited. The thing about Applebee's is that it's impossible to be dignified there. The lighting is too bright, the menus are sticky, and the decor is a confused mix of local sports memorabilia and generic Americana. It was the perfect setting for what was about to happen. A high-stakes tragedy played out over half-priced appetizers. I watched the door. 10 minutes passed. I ate a mozzarella stick. The cheese stretched out like a rubber band. The door swung open. It wasn't Samuel. It was Wyatt. My son ran in, looking frantic. He was wearing his Yukon hoodie and gym shorts. He must have driven like a maniac from campus. Tess was trailing behind him, looking small and terrified. "Mom." Wyatt spotted me and rushed over. He slid into the booth, his eyes wide. "Mom, are you okay? Your phone is off. We've been calling for 20 minutes. Dad isn't answering either." "My phone died, honey," I said calmly, dipping another cheese stick in marinara sauce. "Hi, Tess." Tess couldn't look me in the eye. She stood by the edge of the table, twisting her hands. "Mrs. Walker." "Shirley." My mom, she called me." She was screaming. "She said there was a misunderstanding." "Sit down, Tess," I said gently. You didn't do anything wrong. Wyatt looked at the table, then at me. Mom, the photo. In the group chat. Is it real? Was Dad really kissing her? What do you think, Wyatt? I asked. He looked down at his hands. He's been acting weird for months. He snaps at everything. He's always working. But Tessa's mom? Seriously? It's gross, Tess whispered, sliding into the booth next to Wyatt. Tears were streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Shirley. I swear I didn't know. I know you didn't, I patted her hand. But we're going to get to the bottom of it. Right now. The door opened again. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted. You could feel the tension enter the room. Samuel walked in. He had ditched the suit jacket, probably to look more casual/relatable, but he was sweating through his dress shirt. Lorraine was right behind him, wearing oversized sunglasses inside a dim restaurant, which only drew more attention to her. They looked like two people marching to the gallows. Samuel spotted us. He took a deep breath, put on his financial advisor/I'm-in-charge face, and marched over. Shirley, he said, his voice booming slightly too loud. This is ridiculous. We are leaving. Get in the car. I didn't move. Sit down, Samuel. The mozzarella sticks are still warm. I am not sitting in an Applebee's, he hissed. Sit down. This time, I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just looked at him with the cold, dead eyes of a woman who has the PIN code to his life. Samuel sat. Lorraine hovered. You too, Lorraine, I motioned to the empty side of the booth. Unless you prefer to stand? I know your feet must hurt in those heels. Lorraine slid in next to Samuel. They sat opposite me, Wyatt, and Tess. It was the most awkward double date in history. Dad, Wyatt said, his voice shaking. Is it true? Samuel cleared his throat. He went into spin mode. I could see the gears turning. Wyatt, son, listen. Your mother, she has a very vivid imagination. Lorraine and I are starting a business venture. A real estate partnership. We were at the hotel meeting with investors. The photo, it was just a congratulatory hug. We closed a big deal. A congratulatory hug? I repeated. With tongue? There was no tongue. Lorraine shrieked. A family at the next table turned to stare. Lorraine lowered her voice. Shirley, you are being hysterical. It was a friendly embrace. We were excited about the business. The business, I nodded slowly. Right. Walker and Landry Properties, I assume? Samuel froze. How did you? I have eyes, Samuel. And I have access to our bank statements. Or I did, until you froze the cards. I froze them because you were acting erratically. Samuel defended. Unblocking cards, spending money on tow trucks. I spent money on a tow truck because my car died while I was watching you cheat on me. I slammed my hand on the table. The silverware rattled. We weren't cheating. Lorraine insisted, though her hand was shaking as she reached for a glass of water. We are partners. Partners, I said. Okay. Let's talk about this partnership. Samuel, why did this partnership require a room at the Hartford Grand 7 times in the last month? Do you hold board meetings in a king-size bed? We needed privacy. Samuel said. To discuss strategy. And the charge at Tiffany's yesterday? I asked. $850. Did the strategy require a silver bracelet? I didn't get a bracelet, Samuel. Did you, Tess? I looked at Tess. Tess shook her head, staring at her mother in horror. Mom? Is that the bracelet you showed me last night? You said you bought it yourself. Lorraine turned red. Tess, honey, don't. You bought her jewelry with our money? I asked Samuel. With our joint account? It was a business expense. Samuel yelled. A signing bonus. You don't understand how business works, surely. Oh, I think I do, I leaned forward. I think I understand perfectly. You think I'm stupid. You think because I buy store-brand cereal and iron your shirts that I can't do math. But here's the thing, Samuel. I'm the one who balances the checkbook every month. I'm the one who noticed the ATM withdrawals near the casino last year. I let that slide. But this? I pulled a folded piece of paper out of my purse. It wasn't a legal document. It was just a receipt I had found in his pants pocket while doing laundry 3 weeks ago. I had kept it because it seemed odd. The Oyster Club, I read. Dinner for two. $240. April 14th. You told me you were at a tax seminar. Samuel's jaw clenched. Surely, stop. And here, I pulled out my phone, which I had plugged into a portable charger Wyatt had handed me. It had rebooted. I had the screenshots. Hotel rooms. Dinners. Spa treatments. All on the card ending in 4598. So what? Samuel sneered. The mask was slipping. The charming advisor was gone, the bully was out. So I spent some money. I earn the money, surely. I bring in the clients. I pay the mortgage. You work a little marketing job that barely covers groceries. If I want to spend my money on a business partner, I will. Your money? I asked quietly. Connecticut is a marital property state, Sam. It's our money. Not for long, he muttered. Excuse me? I'm filing, Samuel said, straightening his cuffs. He looked at Lorraine for support. She nodded, gaining some confidence. I was going to wait until next week, but you forced my hand. I'm filing for divorce, surely. I'm unhappy. I've been unhappy for years. You're stale. You have no ambition. Lorraine and I, we have a vision. A vision, I repeated. Yes. We are going to build an empire. And frankly, I deserve to be happy. I deserve someone who matches my level. Tess started sobbing. Wyatt looked like he wanted to punch his father. So that's it? I asked. You're leaving me for her? And you're taking the money? I'm taking what's mine, Samuel said coldly. My lawyer will be in touch. We'll offer you a fair settlement. You can keep the house, well, maybe not the house. It's too big for you anyway. We'll find you a nice condo. He was so arrogant. He thought he had one. He thought he was holding all the cards. He didn't know I had seen the LLC paperwork. The waitress approached the table with 2 baskets of mozzarella sticks and my virgin daiquiri. She took one look at Tess crying, Samuel's red face, and my stony expression, and she gently slid the plates onto the table and backed away without a word. Eat, I told Wyatt and Tess. You need the protein. I can't eat, Mom, Wyatt said, his voice thick with disgust. Dad, you're unbelievable. You'll understand when you're older, Wyatt, Samuel said dismissively. Relationships are complicated. People grow apart. You didn't grow apart, Dad. You cheated. With my girlfriend's mom. We are building a future. Samuel slammed his hand on the table again. Speaking of that future, I said, picking up a mozzarella stick and examining it calmly. Tell me about SNL Ventures LLC. Samuel stopped breathing. Lorraine's eyes widened behind her sunglasses. How? Samuel stammered. You left your iPad unlocked on the kitchen counter last Sunday, I lied. I actually found it because he used password 123 for everything, but let him wonder. I saw the registration confirmation. So? Samuel recovered quickly. It's a legitimate company. We registered it last month. Yes, you did, I smiled. But Samuel, you've always been sloppy with details. That's why I fill out the tax forms, remember? You registered the LLC. You listed yourself and Lorraine as managing partners. 50-50th split. Correct, Samuel said, looking confused as to where I was going with this. And for the principal business address, I continued, taking a sip of my lime green drink. You didn't want to pay for a P.O. box or a virtual office. You're cheap, Sam. So you used an address you already had access to. Samuel blinked. He started to look pale again. You registered your affair partner's business, I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper, at our home address. 42 Maplewood Drive. It's just for mail. Samuel said. No, Samuel. It's the legal headquarters of the company. And since you used marital funds, $50,000 transferred from our savings on March 3rd, labeled home repairs, to capitalize the company, and you registered it at the marital home. I paused for effect. That means we own the company. Me and you. Since we are still married. Half of your share is mine. And since you used commingled funds, a forensic accountant could argue that the entire company is a marital asset. I turned to Lorraine. So, technically, Lorraine. I'm your boss. Lorraine gasped. She whipped off her sunglasses. That is not true. I put in my own money. Did you? I asked. Or did Samuel lend you money from our Hellick home equity line of credit? Because I saw a withdrawal for $20,000 from that account too. Lorraine went silent. She looked at Samuel with pure venom. You said you used your bonus. You said the money was clean. It is. Samuel stuttered. Shirley is bluffing. She doesn't know corporate law. I don't, I admitted. But I know who does. I called Diana Martinez. The name landed like a bomb. Diana Martinez was the most ruthless divorce attorney in Hartford. She was known as the Shark in Stilettos. Samuel had actually faced her in court once as an expert witness, and she had shredded him. You called Diana? Samuel whispered. Fear. Actual fear. I did. While I was in the tow truck. She's very interested in the case. She's particularly interested in the dissipation of assets claim. That's when a spouse spends marital money on an affair. The court hates that, Sam. They make you pay it back. Dollar for dollar. I pulled out my phone again. It had charged enough to turn on. I have the photos. I have the receipts. I have the LLC registration. And now. I looked at the door. I have the jury. What jury? Samuel asked. The front door of Applebee's swung open. A petite, elderly woman marched in. She was carrying a Chanel handbag and wearing a look that could curdle milk. She spotted our table and made a beeline for us, her heels clicking rhythmically on the tile floor. Mother? Samuel squeaked. It was Beverly. My mother-in-law. Beverly Walker was 5 feet 2 inches of old-school judgment. She was a woman who believed in pearls before noon, handwritten thank-you notes, and that divorce was something that happened to other people, mostly Democrats and Hollywood actors. She marched up to the booth. She didn't look at me. She looked straight at Samuel. Samuel James Walker, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority. Why is there a picture of you and this woman all over the family WhatsApp? My bridge club is asking questions. Samuel stood up immediately. Mom, please. Sit down. It's a misunderstanding. Shirley is overreacting. Beverly turned her gaze to me. For a second, I thought she was going to attack me. She had always been critical of me. Shirley works too much. Shirley isn't affectionate enough. Shirley's house is cluttered. Shirley, Beverly said stiffly. Did you post that photo? I did, Beverly, I said. It's very undignified, she sniffed. Airing dirty laundry in public. She's crazy, Mom. Samuel seized the opportunity. She's trying to ruin my reputation. Lorraine and I are just business partners. Beverly looked at Lorraine. She looked at the pencil skirt, the highlights, the too much makeup. Beverly was a snob, and Lorraine, despite her pretensions, screamed new money to Beverly. Business partners, Beverly repeated. Is that what we call it now? Yes. Lorraine chimed in, trying to charm Beverly. Mrs. Walker, so lovely to see you again. Samuel and I have such big plans. We're going to revolutionize the Hartford market. Beverly ignored her. She looked back at Samuel. You know how I feel about scandal, Samuel. Your father worked hard for the Walker name. I know, Mom. That's why I need you to talk sense into Shirley. She's talking about lawyers. She's talking about freezing assets. Well, Beverly adjusted her pearls. If you are innocent, you have nothing to fear. But Samuel, why did you miss our lunch last Tuesday? You said you were handling a crisis with the pension fund. Samuel froze. I was. It was a complex trade. I saw my opening. This was the nuking option. I hadn't planned to use it this early, but the opportunity was perfect. Actually, Beverly, I said, reaching into my bag for the final piece of paper. I'm glad you brought up the pension fund. Shirley, don't, Samuel warned. His eyes were wide with panic. Don't bring Mom into this. You brought her into this when you managed her portfolio, Sam. I handed the paper to Beverly. What is this? Beverly asked, putting on her reading glasses. It's a transaction record from your trust account, I said. The account Samuel manages for you. Shirley. Samuel lunged across the table to grab the paper. Wyatt stood up and blocked him. Sit down, Dad. Let Grandma read it. Beverly read the line item. Her hand started to tremble. Withdrawal, $35,000. Destination. SNL Ventures LLC. She looked up. Her eyes were watery. Samuel? You took money from your father's life insurance trust? I borrowed it, Mom. Samuel was sweating profusely now. It's an investment. I was going to pay it back with interest. The real estate market is booming. I just needed liquidity for the down payment on the first flip. You stole from me? Beverly whispered. To fund a business with her? She pointed a manicured finger at Lorraine. We needed the capital, Mrs. Walker, Lorraine said stupidly. It's a sure thing. You'll get a great return. Beverly slowly folded the paper. She placed it in her purse. She looked at Lorraine with a look of absolute disgust. My husband left that money for my care, Beverly said softly. And you gave it to your mistress. Mom, it's not like that. Beverly turned to Samuel. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She reached for the glass of ice water sitting in front of Lorraine. With a swift, elegant motion, a motion she probably learned in finishing school in 1970, she threw the entire contents of the glass into Lorraine's face. The ice cubes hit Lorraine's cheek. The water soaked her silk blouse. Lorraine shrieked and jumped up, knocking over the basket of mozzarella sticks. You are a thief, Samuel, Beverly said, her voice shaking with rage. And you, she looked at Lorraine, dripping wet, are a cheap accessory. Beverly turned to me. Shirley. Yes, Beverly? Do you have that lawyer's number? Diana Martinez? I do. Good, Beverly said. Give it to me. I need to sue my son for embezzlement. The silence at the table was total. Samuel sank back into the booth, head in his hands. He was defeated. He had lost his wife. He had lost his son. And now, he had lost his mother, and his biggest client. I looked at him. I looked at the wet, miserable Lorraine. I looked at the stunned Wyatt and Tess. I picked up my virgin daiquiri. I took a long, slow sip. So, I said, looking at the menu. Who wants dessert? The brownie sundae is excellent. The ride home from Applebee's was the quietest trip of my life. Gus, the tow truck driver, had dropped my dead Subaru in the driveway like a 2-ton paperweight. I stood there for a moment, looking at my house, the colonial style on Maplewood Drive with the blue shutters I had painted myself 3 summers ago. It looked the same, but it felt different. It felt like a crime scene. Beverly had taken Wyatt and Tess back to her condo. She said they needed sanctuary and real food, implying that my mozzarella stick dinner wasn't sufficient for emotional trauma. I didn't argue. I needed the house empty. I walked to the front door, my key heavy in my hand. I unlocked it, stepped inside, and listened. Silence. No TV blaring CNBC. No Samuel complaining about the temperature. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. The first thing I did wasn't to cry. I didn't have time to cry. The adrenaline from the restaurant was fading, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. I walked straight to the kitchen drawer, pulled out the phone book, yes, I still keep one, and looked up emergency locksmith. 24-hour service. We keep you safe. That sounded nice. I dialed. I need my locks changed, I told the dispatcher. All of them. Front, back, garage, and the patio sliding door. We can have someone there in an hour, ma'am. Did you lose your keys? No, I said, staring at the wedding photo on the mantel. I lost my husband. While I waited for the locksmith, I went to the home office. This was Samuel's domain. Mahogany desk, leather chair, framed certificates of his financial prowess on the wall. I sat in his chair. It was too big for me, cold leather against my back. I opened his top drawer. Locked. I grabbed a letter opener and jimmied it. It popped open with embarrassing ease. Inside, I didn't find a smoking gun. I found something sadder. A stack of parking tickets. Unpaid. A notice from the country club about overdue dues. A brochure for a luxury yacht charter in the Caribbean with S and L doodled in the margins in Samuel's handwriting. He was living a fantasy life on a credit card budget, and he was drowning. And now I knew he was planning to use me as his life raft, or rather, his anchor, to cut loose so he could float away. My phone, now charged to 30%, buzzed. A text from Samuel. Samuel, Shirley, stop this madness. You are embarrassing yourself. Mom is hysterical. I'm staying at the hotel tonight. We will talk tomorrow when you are rational. Samuel, also, don't touch the laptop in the study. It has client confidentiality files. I looked at the laptop sitting on the desk. Client confidentiality, right. I didn't touch it yet. I had a more important call to make. I dialed the number for the law offices of Diana Martinez. It was 5:15 p.m. Most lawyers were gone for the day. But Diana Martinez wasn't most lawyers. Martinez Law, a crisp voice answered. I need to speak to Diana. It's an emergency involving asset dissipation and an infidelity clause, I said, using the terms I had Googled in the tow truck. There was a pause. 1 moment. 30 seconds later, a voice that sounded like smooth jazz and barbed wire came on the line. This is Diana. You have 3 minutes to interest me. My husband is a financial advisor, I said, speaking fast. He registered an LLC with his mistress using our home address. He funded it with marital assets. He stole from his own mother's trust fund. And I have a prenuptial agreement from 2005 that he thinks is expired. I'm listening, Diana said. I could hear the smile in her voice. I have photos. I have bank statements. I have the LLC registration. And I just changed the locks. Smart girl, Diana said. I can see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Bring everything. And Shirley? Yes? Don't sleep with him. Don't talk to him. Don't text him. If he tries to enter the house, call the police. You are now in a war, and silence is your best weapon. The doorbell rang. It was the locksmith. For the next 2 hours, the sound of drilling filled the house. It was the sound of my old life being dismantled, screw by screw. When the locksmith handed me the new set of keys, shiny, sharp, unfamiliar, I felt a strange weight lift off my chest. That'll be $450, ma'am, the locksmith said. I handed him the joint credit card. He swiped it. It went through. Thank you, I said. You just bought me my first night of peaceful sleep in 20 years. I poured myself a glass of wine, Samuel's expensive Cabernet that he was saving for a special occasion. I figured surviving a Tuesday was special enough. I sat on the patio, watching the sun go down over the garden I had planted. My phone buzzed again. Samuel, my key isn't working. Open the door, Shirley. I need my suits. Samuel, Shirley. I can hear you inside. Open the damn door. Samuel, I'm calling the cops. You can't lock me out of my own house. I took a sip of wine and typed my first and only reply of the night. Shirley, the locks are changed. The police have been notified that I feel threatened by your erratic behavior today. Your suits are in garbage bags on the front porch. I suggest you pick them up before it rains. It looks like a storm is coming. I watched from the darkened living room window as Samuel's headlights swept across the lawn. He got out of his car, a leased BMW he couldn't really afford, and stormed up to the porch. He kicked the door. He shouted something about insanity. Then, he saw the black garbage bags. He ripped one open. His Armani jacket spilled out onto the doormat. He stood there, holding his jacket, looking at the door that was forever close to him. For the first time, the power dynamic had shifted. He was on the outside, in the dark. I was on the inside, with the wine and the truth. He gathered the bags, threw them in his trunk, and peeled out of the driveway. I didn't feel happy. Not yet. But I felt safe. I went upstairs to our bedroom. I stripped the sheets off the bed, the ones he had slept in last night, and threw them in the trash. I remade the bed with the crisp, white linens I usually saved for guests. I lay down in the middle of the king-sized bed. It felt enormous. Okay, Shirley, I whispered to the empty room. Round one goes to you. But he's going to come back swinging. I didn't know then just how dirty Samuel was willing to fight. I thought the worst was over. I thought the affair was the bottom of the barrel. I was wrong. The affair was just the tip of the iceberg. The real horror story was hiding in the cloud. The next morning, reality hit me like a bucket of ice water. Specifically, it hit me at the checkout counter of Whole Foods. I had just finished my meeting with Diana Martinez. She was everything I expected, sharp, terrifying, and impeccably dressed in a red power suit. She had taken my evidence, raised an eyebrow at the SNL Ventures registration, and told me to sit tight while she drafted the filing. He's going to try to cut off your resources, Diana had warned me as I left. It's the classic narcissist playbook. Be ready. I thought I was ready. I went to the grocery store to stock up on comfort food, chocolate, wine, and ingredients for a lasagna for Wyatt and Tess. I loaded the conveyor belt with $200 worth of groceries. The cashier, a nice teenager with braces, rang it up. That'll be $214.50. I slid my debit card. Beep. Declined. I frowned. Try it again. It's a debit card. There's plenty of money in the checking account. She swiped again. Beep. Declined. It says card reported lost or stolen. My stomach dropped. I pulled out the joint credit card, the one I had unblocked yesterday. Beep. Declined. Account frozen by primary cardholder. I stood there, my face burning. There were 3 people in line behind me. A woman sighed loudly. I quickly checked my banking app. Access denied. User ID suspended. Samuel. He had moved fast. He must have called the bank the second the branch opened at 9 a.m., claiming fraud or identity theft to lock me out. He was trying to starve me out. He knew I didn't have a personal income stream large enough to fight him immediately. I have cash, I stammered, digging through my purse. I counted the bills. $40. Not enough for the groceries. I'll have to put some things back, I whispered, humiliation stinging my eyes. Oh, look who it is. The voice was like nails on a chalkboard. I turned around. Lorraine was standing there. Of course she was. Hartford is a small city, and Whole Foods is the town square for the suburban elite. She looked pristine. Her hair was blown out perfectly, erasing the memory of Beverly's ice water bath. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a basket with kale, quinoa, and a bottle of expensive collagen water. Having trouble paying, Shirley? She asked, loud enough for the line to hear. I heard Samuel had to secure the accounts. He's very worried about your spending manic episodes. The woman behind me gasped. The cashier looked down, embarrassed. My spending? I said, my voice trembling. You mean the money he spent on your business trips to the hotel? Lower your voice, Lorraine smiled, stepping closer. She smelled of vanilla and victory. You're making a scene again. It's sad, really. Samuel told me you'd been unstable for years. He stayed with you out of pity. That word. Pity. It snapped something inside me. Pity? I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. He stayed with me because I paid the bills while he built his client list. He stayed with me because I raised his son while he played golf. And Lorraine? He's not freezing the accounts because I'm unstable. He's freezing them because he's terrified. Terrified of what? A housewife with a broken Subaru? Lorraine smirked. Face it, Shirley. You're done. He's filing for full custody of the assets. He says you're mentally incompetent. And with that little stunt at Applebee's yesterday, harassing his mother, the judge isn't going to look kindly on you. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a hiss. He's going to leave you with nothing. Just the clothes on your back and that ugly house. And eventually, we'll take the house too. It's prime real estate. I looked at her. I looked at the kale in her basket. I realized something. She wasn't just a mistress. She was a partner in crime. She knew the plan. She knew about taking the house. You really think you've won, don't you? I asked quietly. I have the man. I have the business. And soon, I'll have the lifestyle, Lorraine said. She threw a $20 bill onto the conveyor belt next to my groceries. Here. Buy yourself some cat food. You're going to need it. She walked away, hips swaying, leaving me standing there with a $20 bill on the counter like a beggar. I didn't take her money. I took my $40, bought a bottle of wine and a bag of chips, and walked out. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 10 minutes. Not out of sadness, but out of pure, unadulterated rage. They were going to take my house? My sanctuary? My phone rang. It was Wyatt. Mom, his voice was tight. I'm at the house. Your key works, right? Grandma dropped me off. I'm coming home, honey, I wiped my eyes. Is everything okay? No. Dad called me. He told me you're having a breakdown. He told me to pack my stuff because he's selling the house. He is not selling the house, I growled, starting the engine. When I got home, Wyatt was sitting on the front steps, holding his iPad. He looked like a little boy again, lost and confused. "Mom," he said as I walked up. "Tess is staying at a friend's house. She can't go home. Her mom, Lorraine, is acting like nothing happened. She's planning a celebration dinner tonight." "Let her celebrate," I said, unlocking the door. "Her hangover is going to be legendary." We went into the kitchen. I poured Wyatt a glass of milk, old habits, and sat down opposite him. "Wyatt, I need to ask you something. You said yesterday that Dad's iPad, you know the passcode?" Wyatt nodded. "Yeah. He thinks he's slick. He changed it to Lorraine 1980 a few months ago. I saw him type it in when we were watching a game." "Lorraine 1980, I repeated. "God, he's a cliché." "But Mom," Wyatt hesitated. "The iPad is at his office. Or maybe in his car. We don't have it." "No," I smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. "But we have the cloud." "The cloud?" "Everything he does on that iPad syncs to the iCloud, right? If we can log into his account on your iPad, we can see everything." Wyatt looked at his iPad. "But I don't know his Apple ID password." "I do," I said. "It's the same password he uses for Netflix, the alarm system, and his fantasy football league. Touchdown 12-foot dot." Wyatt looked at me with respect. "You really pay attention, don't you?" "I'm a wife, Wyatt. We're basically CIA agents with better cooking skills." Wyatt handed me his iPad. I opened the browser. I went to iCloud.com. Username, swacker_finance@gmail.com. Password, touchdown 12. I hit enter. A spinning wheel. A pause. Two-factor authentication required. Asterisk, a code has been sent to the device ending in 88. My heart sank. That was Samuel's iPhone. He would get the code. He would know we were trying to log in. Damn it, I slammed my hand on the table. He has the phone. Wyatt stared at the screen. "Wait. Mom. Look at the other option. Didn't get a code? Asterisk, text code to 44, trusted number." "Whose number ends in 44? Wyatt asked. I stared at the number. It was familiar. It was an old number. That's the landline," I whispered. "The house phone." Samuel hadn't updated his trusted numbers in 5 years. We still had a landline in the kitchen for emergencies, though we never used it. I grabbed the dusty cordless phone from its cradle. I clicked, asterisk, text code to 44. Or call number. I selected call. The kitchen phone rang. It was a shrill, jarring sound. I picked it up. "Hello," a robotic voice said. "Your Apple ID verification code is 49216. I typed it in. The screen flashed green. "Welcome, Samuel." We were in. The interface of Samuel's digital soul opened up before us. Photos, notes, drive, find my iPhone. It was all there. "Okay," I said, cracking my knuckles. "Let's see what business you've been up to." I started with photos. I expected nudes. I found them. Dozens of them. Lorraine in hotel bathrooms, Lorraine by the pool, Lorraine wearing the diamond earrings I didn't know he bought. It was gross, but it was just more proof of infidelity. I saved them all to a folder named Divorce Ammo. "Mom, don't look at those," Wyatt said, turning away, his face green. "I'm sorry, honey. But I need everything." Then I went to notes. This is where Samuel's arrogance really shone. He used the Notes app as his personal diary and planner. There was a note titled Future Goals 2024. Phase 1, secure funding, mom's trust. Check. Phase 2, launch SNL Ventures. Check. Phase 3, divorce cite irreconcilable differences, claim mental instability. Phase 4, liquidate Maplewood property. Phase 5, buy condo in Boca Raton with L, liquidate Maplewood, I read aloud. He's planning to sell this house. The house my father helped us buy. But the real treasure was in the iCloud Drive files. I opened a folder labeled Project Phoenix. Inside were PDF documents. Scanned contracts. I opened one titled loan_application_draft.pdf. It was an application for a second mortgage on our home. A HELOC for $150,000. It was dated 3 days ago. And there, at the bottom, were 2 signatures. Samuel J. Walker. Shirley A. Walker. I stared at the signature. It looked like mine. It had the loop on the S and the sharp K. But I had never signed this. He forged my signature, I whispered. He forged my signature to take out a loan on the house to fund his life with her. Is that illegal? Wyatt asked. It's a felony, Wyatt. It's bank fraud. I kept digging. I found emails between Samuel and a realtor, Lorraine's friend. To realtor_jen@homes.com from swacker_finance@gmail.com subject, listing Maplewood Jen, we need to move fast. Once the divorce is filed, I want the sign in the yard. I'm pushing for a quick sale. Shirley won't know what hit her. She'll be too busy crying to read the fine print. Listed at $650,000 for a quick cash offer. He wasn't just leaving me. He was actively plotting to destroy me. He wanted to sell the house out from under me, take the equity, and run to Florida with Lorraine, leaving me with nothing but emotional trauma and a bad credit score. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. This wasn't just a bad husband. This was a predator. Mom, Wyatt pointed at another file. What's DNA_results.pdf? My heart stopped. DNA results? I clicked it. The file opened slowly. It was a lab report from Ancestry Health, dated 4 years ago. Subject, Samuel Walker. Test, paternity. Child, Lucas Miller. Mother, Sarah Miller. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. I gasped. The air left the room. Lucas Miller. Sarah Miller. I knew Sarah. She was Samuel's secretary 5 years ago. She had quit suddenly, moved to Ohio. Samuel had told me she wanted to be closer to her sick mother. He had a child. He had a 4-year-old son in Ohio that he had been hiding from me. I scrolled down. There were bank transfer receipts in the same folder. $1,500 monthly transfer to Sarah Miller. Label, consulting fee. He had been paying child support disguised as business expenses for 4 years. Mom? Wyatt touched my arm. Who is Lucas? I looked at my son. My 19-year-old boy who was watching his father's image disintegrate in real time. Lucas is your brother, Wyatt, I said, my voice sounding like it was coming from a mile away. You have a half-brother. Wyatt stared at the screen. He didn't cry. He just got quiet. Very, very quiet. He lied about everything, Wyatt whispered. His whole life is a lie. Yes, I said. And now we have the proof. I downloaded everything. I emailed it to myself. I emailed it to Diana Martinez. I saved it to a USB drive. I printed hard copies. My phone rang. It was Diana. Shirley, her voice was urgent. We have a problem. Samuel's lawyer just sent over an emergency motion. They are asking for a specialized hearing tomorrow. They want to freeze you out of the house. They are claiming you are a danger to the property. Let them try, I said. Diana, check your email. Why? Because I just found out why Samuel is so desperate for money. He's supporting a secret child in Ohio, he forged my signature on a mortgage application, and he's planning to flee to Florida. There was silence on the other end of the line. Diana? I'm here, Diana said. I'm just smiling. Surely, this is beautiful. This is the trifecta. Fraud, forgery, and a secret family. Cancel your plans for tomorrow. Why? Because we're not just going to a hearing. We're going to an execution. I hung up. I looked at Wyatt. Pack a suit, honey, I said. You're coming to court with me. Really? Yes. You deserve to see justice. And honestly? I think your father needs to look you in the eye when we read this out loud. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up reviewing the documents. I felt like a prosecutor preparing for the trial of the century. And in a way, I was. I was prosecuting the death of my marriage. But amidst the pain, there was a strange excitement. For 19 years, Samuel had told me I was useless with money. He had told me I couldn't understand complex details. Well, I understood this. I understood that he had left a digital trail so wide a blind man could follow it. Tomorrow, at the lawyer's office for the mediation settlement, which Diana had arranged as a trap before the court hearing, Samuel was going to learn a very expensive lesson. Never underestimate a woman who manages the household budget. We know where every penny goes. And we know exactly where the bodies are buried. The conference room at Diana Martinez's office was sleek, modern, and freezing cold. A glass table dominated the room, separating the two warring factions like a demilitarized zone. On one side, me, wearing my best navy blazer, ironed by myself, perfectly, Diana, and a silent, stony-faced Wyatt. On the other side, Samuel, looking tired but defiant in a gray suit, his lawyer, a man named Mr. Blanton who looked like a weasel in a cheap tie, and, unbelievably, Lorraine. Why is she here? Diana asked, pointing a manicured pen at Lorraine. Ms. Landry is a business partner and emotional support, Mr. Blanton said smoothly. She has a vested interest in the assets. She has a vested interest in my husband's pants, I muttered. Wyatt snorted. Let's get to it, Samuel said, checking his watch. I have a flight to catch. To Boca Raton? I asked innocently. Samuel flinched. To a conference. Mr. Blanton opened a folder. My client is generous. Despite Mrs. Walker's erratic behavior and public harassment, Samuel is willing to offer a settlement to avoid a messy court battle. He slid a paper across the table. Diana picked it up. She read it. She didn't laugh, but her eyes danced. She handed it to me. The offer, Shirley keeps the Subaru. Shirley receives a lump sum of $25,000. Shirley vacates the Maplewood property within 30 days. Samuel retains full ownership of all retirement accounts, investments, and the business entity SNL Ventures. Both parties sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. I looked up at Samuel. You want me to leave my house? For $25,000? It's more than you deserve, Samuel said coldly. I paid the mortgage for 19 years. You contributed nothing financially. I contributed my life, Samuel, I said. That doesn't show up on a balance sheet, Lorraine chimed in. Real estate is about equity, Shirley. You have none. Diana cleared her throat. The sound was like a gavel striking. Mr. Blanton, Diana said. Before we discuss this insulting offer, I'd like to draw your attention to a document from 2005. She slid a single sheet of paper across the table. What is this? Blanton asked. The prenuptial agreement, Diana said. Samuel scoffed. That old thing? It expired after 10 years. We looked into it. Actually, Diana smiled, Clause 14, Section B states, The infidelity penalty clause remains in effect in perpetuity until the death of either party. And it specifies that if the spouse is proven to have committed adultery, they forfeit all claims to assets acquired during the marriage, and, this is my favorite part, they must reimburse the injured spouse for any marital funds spent on the affair. That's archaic, Blanton said, sweating slightly. It won't hold up. In Connecticut? With Judge Henderson? Diana raised an eyebrow. He's a stickler for contracts. But that's just the appetizer. Diana pulled out the second stack of papers. The ones from the Cloud. We are also filing a countersuit for fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. She slid the loan application with the forged signature across the table. Samuel's face went white. He reached for the paper, but Blanton stopped him. Blanton read it. He looked at his client with horror. Sam? Blanton whispered. Did you sign this? I had verbal permission. Samuel stammered. Shirley said it was okay. I never said it was okay to put a second mortgage on my home to fund your mistress's company, I said clearly. That's a felony, Samuel. Up to 5 years in prison. Lorraine looked at Samuel. Prison? You didn't say anything about prison. And finally, I said, standing up. I needed to deliver this one standing. We have the matter of Lucas. The room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Samuel looked like he had been shot. How? Lucas Miller, I said. Your son. 4 years old. Living in Ohio. The son you pay for with consulting fees from our joint account. Lorraine stood up. What? Who is Lucas? Sit down, Lorraine, I snapped. You're the mistress, not the wife. You don't get to be outraged. I turned back to Samuel. You have a child. A child you hid from me. A child you hid from Wyatt. Wyatt looked at his father. Dad? Is it true? Samuel looked at his son. He couldn't lie. The evidence was on the table. He nodded slowly. It was a mistake, Samuel whispered. Sarah, it was a one-time thing. 4 years of payments isn't a one-time thing, Diana noted. Lorraine was hyperventilating. You have a kid? You told me you wanted to start a family with me. You said Shirley couldn't give you more children. I didn't want more children. Samuel yelled, losing control. I just wanted out. I wanted a life where I wasn't being nagged about wet towels and recycling. I wanted to be a winner. Well, congratulations, Samuel, I said. You've won the Triple Crown. You're an adulterer, a fraudster, and a deadbeat dad. Diana leaned forward. Here is our counteroffer. You will sign it now, or I will walk out of this room and file these documents with the district attorney. She slid a new paper across. The real deal, Shirley gets the house. 100%. Shirley gets 70% of the retirement funds. Samuel assumes all debt related to SNL Ventures. Samuel pays Shirley's legal fees. Shirley gets full custody of the dog. Samuel looked at the paper. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold it. I can't sign this, he croaked. I'll be ruined. I'll have nothing. You'll have your freedom, I said. And you'll have Lorraine. Isn't that what you wanted? I looked at Lorraine. She was backing away from the table. Actually, Lorraine said, her voice trembling. I think I need to go. I can't be part of a fraud investigation. I have a license to protect. Lorraine? Samuel looked at her, betrayed. We're partners. Not anymore, Lorraine said. She grabbed her purse. I didn't sign that loan application. That's on you, Sam. Don't drag me down. She ran out of the room. The door slammed shut. Samuel sat there, alone. His lawyer was packing up his briefcase, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Sign it, Sam," Wyatt said. It was the first time he had spoken in 10 minutes. "Sign it, or Mom sends you to jail." Samuel looked at me. He looked for the weak woman he had married. He looked for the woman who cried over cranberry sauce. He didn't find her. He picked up the pen. He signed. You might think that signing the papers was the end. It wasn't. It was just the legal end. The emotional and professional destruction took a few more weeks. I kept my word, mostly. I didn't send the forgery documents to the police immediately. I held on to them as leverage to ensure he moved out quietly. But I did have a civic duty regarding his professional conduct. 2 days after the mediation, I sat at my laptop with a cup of coffee. I composed an email to the CFP Board, Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards. Subject: Ethical Violation Report, Samuel Walker. Attachment: Evidence of misappropriation of client funds, Beverly Walker Trust, and commingling of assets. Then, I composed an email to the Connecticut Real Estate Commission. Subject: Complaint regarding Realtor Lorraine Landry. Body: Evidence of unethical conduct, undisclosed conflict of interest, and facilitation of financial fraud. I hit send on both. It took about a week for the dominoes to fall. Samuel came to the house one last time to pick up his golf clubs. He looked terrible. He hadn't shaved, and his BMW had a dent in the bumper. "You reported me," he said, standing in the driveway. "I lost my license, Shirley. The firm fired me yesterday. They're auditing all my accounts." "You stole from your mother, Samuel," I said, standing on the porch with Cooper the dog. "What did you expect? Employee of the month?" "I'm unhireable," he said, staring at his shoes. "I'm 45 years old and I'm toxic. I have to move to a motel." "What happened to Boca Raton?" "Lorraine blocked my number," he laughed bitterly. "She's telling everyone I tricked her. She's trying to save her own skin. She's a survivor, Sam. Just like me." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Shirley, I really am. I ruined everything." I looked at him. I felt a twinge of sadness, not for him, but for the 19 years that were now just a memory. But then I remembered the photo. The kiss. The business trip. "Yes, you did," I said. "But you know what the funny thing is? You freed me. I was drowning in this marriage too, Sam. I was just too polite to admit it. I went inside and closed the door. I didn't lock it. I didn't need to. He wasn't a threat anymore. He was just a ghost." Lorraine didn't escape unscathed either. The Real Estate Commission suspended her license for 6 months pending investigation into the SNL Ventures funding. Her broker fired her to avoid bad PR. Last I heard, she was working at a department store makeup counter in a mall 3 towns over, trying to sell anti-aging cream to women she used to judge. Tess, to her credit, stayed with Wyatt. They bonded over the trauma. It was a weird glue, but it held. Tess spent more time at my house than hers. She started calling me Mom by accident, then just kept doing it. 6 months passed. The divorce was finalized in record time thanks to the uncontested settlement Samuel signed under duress. I was sitting in my garden. It was autumn now. The leaves on the maple trees were turning a brilliant red. I had the house. I had the dog. And thanks to the settlement, I had a significant chunk of Samuel's investment portfolio, before he drained it completely. Beverly came over for tea every Sunday. She had forgiven me for the public scene at Applebee's. In fact, she seemed to respect me more. "You have a backbone, Shirley," she told me one afternoon, sipping Earl Grey. "I never saw it before. I thought you were soft." I was soft, I admitted. Until I had to be hard. "Samuel called me," Beverly said, looking at the trees. He's working at a car dealership in New Haven. Selling used sedans. Is he happy? He's humbled, Beverly said. Which is better than happy for a man like him. He sees Lucas every other weekend. He's trying to be a father to that boy. That's good, I said. And I meant it. Lucas is innocent in all this. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Gus, the tow truck driver. Gus, hey Shirley, just checking in on the Subaru. And you? I smiled. Gus and I had kept in touch. We went for coffee sometimes. Nothing serious, I wasn't ready for serious, but it was nice to talk to a man who knew how to fix things instead of break them. Shirley, the Subaru is running great, Gus. And so am I. I looked at my bank account app. No joint accounts. No frozen assets. Just my name. Shirley Walker. Actually, no. I had changed my name back last week. Shirley Bennett. It sounded fresh. It sounded like me. 1 year to the day since my car died on Main Street. I drove past Oakmont Plaza. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel angry. I just felt indifferent. I parked the Subaru, which I had finally traded in for a cute, reliable Honda CR-V, in front of a storefront 3 blocks down. The sign above the door was freshly painted, the Zesty Cranberry Cafe and Bakery. Yes, I did it. I took the settlement money, combined it with my marketing experience, and opened a place of my own. We served comfort food. Real food. And yes, we served my signature cranberry sauce on turkey sandwiches year-round. It was our bestseller. I walked inside. The smell of fresh bread and coffee hit me. It was better than the smell of any luxury hotel. Hey boss, my assistant called out. It was Tess. She was working here part-time while finishing nursing school. Hey Tess, I smiled. How's the morning rush? Crazy. We sold out of the cinnamon rolls in an hour. I tied on my apron. I looked around. The walls were painted a warm yellow. The tables were full of people talking, laughing, eating. Wyatt walked in a few minutes later, carrying a box of inventory. He was a junior now, doing well. He kissed me on the cheek. Dad stopped by earlier, Wyatt said quietly. Oh? I didn't look up from the espresso machine. Yeah. He bought a coffee. He left a tip. That's nice. He looks older, Wyatt said. He asked if you were happy. I stopped. I looked out the window at the busy street. I saw a reflection of a woman. She had a few more lines around her eyes, maybe. But her shoulders were back. Her head was high. She wasn't waiting for a tow truck. She was driving the bus. What did you tell him? I asked. I told him you're not just happy, Wyatt grinned. I told him you're successful. I laughed. A real laugh. I walked over to the counter. I picked up a marker and wrote on the special board, today's special, the Sweet Revenge Lemon Tart. Life is funny. Sometimes, the worst day of your life is actually the first day of your life. If my car hadn't died, if I hadn't looked up at that exact moment, I might still be ironing Samuel's shirts and apologizing for my existence. Instead, I'm here. I own the business. I own the house. And most importantly, I own my story. So, to anyone watching this who feels like they are stranded on the side of the road, waiting for help, don't wait. Pop the hood. Check the engine. And if you have to, walk away and find a new ride. Because sometimes, the breakdown is actually the breakthrough. This is Shirley Bennett, signing off. And yes, the cranberry sauce is fresh.